At the end of your life, what will be your legacy? What will you leave behind for future generations? For the world, join the World Messenger, Izabela Lundberg, each week as she brings you a new distinguished guest from the business, sports, or entertainment world to share their success, their struggles, and their lessons. They will share their insights into current hot topics that affect everyone. Izabela facilitates an intimate, vulnerable environment to find the true value of humanity and real leadership. Are you ready for your legacy? The legacy that matters?
Hello, my beautiful friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I have another epic episode for you with an exceptional guest that is joining us from Erie, Colorado, someone that I had a chance to meet, but also hear speak recently at a recent event and showing her journey of how she turned her pain and issues that she was dealing personally to not only solve it, but help hundreds and millions of others to be able to do the same. What happens is when we are dealing with fertility issues, and when we look at someone who has been doing research and find herself with similar problem, we find a tremendous solution. We find Proov, which is fantastic testing diagnostic fertility spectrum that gives you information you need to know rather quickly and, interestingly, more cost effectively. Without further ado, let me welcome Amy Beckley to the studio. Amy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Amy, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here on the Legacy Leader Show, because where we're having discussions on the real and raw leadership and really helping with existing and future leaders that are trying to carve, obviously, their own path, but also learn from others and learn on things that you have to do in order to step up into not only solution, but also how did you approach even addressing the problem you find yourself in?
I have a PhD in pharmacology. So I had been in the scientific field for some time, and I was really passionate about understanding how things worked. I worked in a biotech company, and we studied drugs and why they would work and some of the side effects that some of the drugs would have, try to just kind of figure things out. And then I did some vaccine development. And so we, did some novel vaccines and trying to understand, how to make them work better with less shots than, all these many boosters that we hear about. If we can just do it one and done was our goal. But, I dealt with infertility myself, and just kind of going through the health system and seeing so many, closed off doors and just so much red tape, and to go through so much testing and so much time. I've had, multiple miscarriages. So going through the grief of pregnancy loss, and to be told we have absolutely no idea what's wrong with you, given the diagnosis of unexplained infertility, it just didn't sit well with me. I wasn't satisfied with that kind of a answer. And I felt like there was so much innovation that had to happen within this space. If you think about it, fertility is elective, just like a boob job or liposuction is all elective. And so you have to pay out of pocket. There's certain things that you have to do. Some states do have, a very, very limited mandated coverage. But it was like, this is an industry where it's so lucrative because the fertility treatments are paid out of pocket and they're $15,000-$20,000 each cycle. And the average couple has to go through 2 to 3 cycles. So you're talking $50,000 worth of medical treatments in order for a woman who's dealing with infertility to get pregnant. And so if you think about there being 2 million couples in the US that are infertile every year that have to go through that, it's a very lucrative industry. And what we were seeing is so much innovation and so many dollars going towards making IVF more affordable, more systematic, higher success rates. But it was like, I wanted to create that space for the people that couldn't afford those fancy treatments. Maybe they didn't live near a clinic. Maybe they didn't want to do injections. Maybe they didn't, had a religious belief against IVF. Maybe they didn't want to pay their life savings for IVF. They'd rather keep it for college savings account or something like that. And so my goal was to create this middle space where we go, okay, we're trying naturally to let's do non-invasive type of things. And then once that doesn't work, then we jump to IVF. And so, my particular problem was I was unable to hold a pregnancy. I could get pregnant, but I just had a really hard time holding a pregnancy. And it was, a hormonal issue that traditional medicine wasn't tracking because it was too difficult to do. Most clinicians use blood draws because that is what's most available and accessible. But when you think about hormones and how they fluctuate across the cycle and the role of different times, you can't capture all that with a single blood draw. And so I, 30% of the infertile couples out there were getting misdiagnosed because we didn't have the proper diagnostic tool to tell us what was wrong. And so that's where I fit in was, okay, how do we create these tools? How do we provide more data to the patients and their physicians to have a better conversation, to get them to that diagnosis sooner, to get that treatment quicker, to cheaper treatments, more cost-effective type of ways. And so we created Proov, which is a hormone tracking. It's a suite of hormone tracking diagnostics. We use urine instead of blood, and we track over multiple days to look at patterns, and we can identify ovulatory issues. We can identify low ovarian reserve. We can identify if they're having intercourse at the right timing. We can also look at the motile sperm count to see if he has enough swimmers. There's another thing that we realized is women are doing the majority of this work. We're the ones in here tracking our cycles and writing everything down and doing all this stuff when, in reality, 30-40% of the problem is male, and we need to bring them to the party as well and talk about fertility as it takes a sperm and an egg. It takes them to meet, it takes it to implant, it take, all these different things that has required for a successful pregnancy.
Wow. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry to hear about journey and pain, because just to conceive the baby, but then to lose the baby and have a miscarriages, that must be excruciating and very difficult to deal with. And then on top of it, to really, as obviously someone who desires to have a baby, continue to do crusade on this journey to figure out what is going on. And I just love how you did this holistically, looking at what's going on, not only with a woman's body and changes, but I'm glad that you're addressing big elephant in the room, that a lot of times we don't look at what's happening with our partners, what's happening with the male side of a productive system. And just to, again, find solution, it's just mind-boggling. You unpacked here a lot of great things. So Amy, with that in mind, do you mind kind of emphasizing a little bit more about, obviously, what really started you to begin with to be a scientist, and then leverage and utilize the scientist degree and obviously hours of research and your doctorate to create something so powerful for greater good?
It happened when I was 16. I had really bad migraines, and it was, it's probably just migraines. Let's get her on, migraine medication. Headaches, migraines are just very common, especially for females. And it was, I was 16, and I had a physician, I had a doctor that said, let's go that extra mile. Let's go get her an MRI. Let's just make sure there's nothing else going on. Let's just check the box, making sure it's not anything, more serious. And I went and I got that scan, and it showed a giant tumor at the base of my brain that was cutting off circulation. And I was admitted, and I had, neurosurgery, brain tumor surgery.
Wow.
Immediately. And that experience saved my life. And I just think of that as, wow, he went above and beyond. and said, you know what, there's this very small percentage chance this is what it could be. We're going to make sure we uncover everything. We're going to, check all these things. A lot of physicians, a lot of people, a lot of humans don't do that. And so I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pay back. I want to be that person. I want to help save lives like I was saved. And originally went to school to be a pre-med and did get my my medical degree. But that just didn't work out for me. I worked in a ER and I volunteered, and I didn't like the sight of needles. I would almost pass out. And I was like, okay. I like needles were fine, but needles going into somebody's skin, it was just something about that. There's just I don't like this. I just don't like it. And so then I switched paths to more science and, creating the devices, creating the tools that physicians would use. And that's how I was going to kind of help shape healthcare. And then it wasn't until I saw the fertility space and the need for innovation in that space that I said, okay, this is the subject I want to do.
Oh my goodness, you're unstoppable. First of all, I am so thrilled to know you. Kudos for strength and turning your not only lemons on the lemonade, but making something amazing with. Seems like you're doing this like a second time in your life, at least that I now know of, when you turn the diagnosis and situation into not only learning experience, but also towards more preventative healthcare and much more awareness and understanding, which is phenomenal. So when we look at that, so now you fast forwarded that to fertility, to another issue that you successfully solved. And then you did something amazing with that. And I know that you mentioned some interesting data when you were talking about how do we really look at approach even around preventative health, but also around productive systems, and how we look at also how do we reproduce. And do you mind sharing with everybody watching and listening that are clueless or really know only expensive side of things? What did you discover, and what usually causes infertility and all of these difficult issues? You mentioned hormones, but I'm sure it's more elements to that, and that everybody, I'm sure, eager to learn.
Yeah. So, conception takes a sperm and an egg, and then them to meet and then implant in the uterus. And then, it's got to go down the fallopian tube, it's got to implant in the uterus. You got to, all these, there's so many different things that has to happen. And basically, ovulation tests have been out for years. You can go to Target, Walgreens, whatever, and pick up, ovulation tests, Amazon, and those help couples understand, when they're ovulating. So when their fertile window is, when to time intercourse. And people thought, oh, well, if you're ovulating and you're fertile, that obviously means you had a healthy ovulatory cycle and that you can get pregnant. But that is not the fact. That's not truth. And so basically what we do is, it's not the fact of ovulating, we call it successful ovulation. And so, instead of people thinking, okay, ovulation is just the release of an egg to be fertilized, that's all really ovulation is. Ovulation is more than that. It is preparing the uterus for conception. And so before the egg is released, it produces estrogen. Estrogen thickens the uterine lining for implantation later in the cycle. And then after ovulation, the ovary makes a second hormone called progesterone. That is what creates that stickiness of the uterus so that it can promote implantation of that fertilized embryo. So everybody was focused on timing intercourse, sperm meets egg, as oh, well, that's the only thing that we can control. That's all we know. And so I'd go in and they say, well, you're getting pregnant, you're obviously ovulating. So they kind of check that box, or, oh, you have regular cycles, or, you have a positive ovulation test every month, that's oh, you're ovulating. We discovered ovulation is not a yes or no. It's a pregnancy friendly or not pregnancy friendly type of ovulation. And so we look at hormones across the implantation window, and we make sure that you have sustained elevated progesterone. And we do that via the urine metabolite of progesterone called PDG. And we track it over this 4-day window. We say, okay, is it high? Is it remaining high? And then we did a clinical study where we looked at this hormone level in women, and the women that had low levels after ovulation would miscarry almost 90% of the time. And the women that had the high levels during this implantation window would go on and only have a miscarriage maybe 14% of the time. And so you have a situation where if you monitor your entire ovulation, what your hormones doing across the cycle, you can increase your pregnancy chances by 8-fold. Like, it's huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we've helped women identify issues that they've never been able to identify because blood work misses this this problem. And so, women can advocate for cheaper treatments. They can say, hey, I think it's an ovulation issue. Can we do X, Y, and Z? Can I have this medication, that medication? And so it's a matter of empowering that woman to have the information about her body, to think of conception as, okay, it takes an egg and a sperm, they have to meet, and then they have to implant. Like, you have to have all those things happen at the same, in one cycle for conception to happen, and to come to the doctor's office with that information and say, okay, this is what's going on. I think I have a problem with timing, or I think I don't have any eggs, or I'm not implanting, or whatever it is, so that doctor can have more information to help guide better treatments.
That is amazing and fascinating. Again, research, knowledge, testing, giving yourself chance to try new things can really turn things around for so many people that so desperately desired to have the baby, to have extension of their family. And what a great way to learn also what's missing, right? Because one of the things, what I heard you also before say, that we focus so much on woman and woman body and things from traditional approaches, blood work, but now you through urine and other elements, you're finding more. But you did also something to find more about men, didn't you?
Yeah, so we partnered with a sperm health company, and we created a test that allows women or couples to test their male partner at home. And so there's 2 huge factors that control conception rates. That is the sperm count and the motility. And so you need enough sperm to swim towards the egg to fertilize it. And so it's like a little microscope slide. It comes with a little like a microscope type of thing. It connects to your phone, and you do the sample at home. You don't have to worry about sending it to labs. You get the sample, it goes to your phone, and you can see a video of the motile sperm, and it counts it and it scores it. You can track it over time. We offer healthy tips like what supplements, lifestyle, things to kind of improve sperm quality. And so we want both partners to have an active, role in this, and to both promote optimal fertility, because, a lot of times it's the male, or it's a combination of male and female.
That is also very eye-opening, because I remember some of my friends, and that was always in the past focused so much on women that very few and very rarely, and then focus on male reproductive system, because it was just assumed, right? And because of sexual healthy lifestyle or production of sperm, but without really going into all the other specifications. And I'm so glad that is also changing, because woman's body usually goes through a lot of hormonal treatments as a result of it, and without ever guarantee it's going to work or not, and without ever fully knowing effects of it, or side effects for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're going to go through all these invasive treatments, we're going to go into doctors, like, we need to at least check both sides of the equation and come in very educated on both parts of it.
But one thing I've really been fascinating when you were sharing on recent event statistics and data that is affecting people and population on global scale. We're seeing exponential growth, yes, technologically, scientifically, and many other avenues, but yet we're still failing on the most basic elements, and which we're also looking at quality of life. How is the stress, pollution, and other factors impacting not only longevity and quality of life, but also opportunity to reproduce the life. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that data? Because to me was eye-opening, even though you assume a lot of things have a cause and effect, but we don't really look at things unless we need to, right? Or not, we're in that position. So do you mind reflecting a little bit about your trip in India, but also overall understanding the lay of the land and landscape on global scale?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the global infertility rates are plummeting. They used to be 1 out of 10 couples was dealing with infertility. It's now as low as 1 in 4 couples. And there's many different reasons why. Sperm counts have decreased 50% in the last 50 years. And so like just the count and motility has just drastically gone down. Women have more hormone imbalance, more ovulatory issues, more health concerns that cause infertility. So the biggest ones on the female side are PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Diabetes type 2 is the main culprit there. Being overweight, high pollution. So I went to India, and they have a really high infertility rate, and it's because of just the high pollution rates that they have in that country, just because it's just so many people there that they can't have clean air and clean drinking water. Is really difficult. But yeah, there's a number of couples have to conceive so many children to reproduce and to maintain the world's population. And that number is about 2.5. So if every couple has about 2.5 children, then we can maintain the world's population. In most developed countries, that number is below 2.5. And so I also went to Japan, where the number is 1.7. So it's definitely below that 2.5. And there, it was a lot of policy changes and issues where they weren't incentivizing young couples to conceive. It was almost like shame for a woman to be pregnant, and she couldn't be a mother and raise a family and a career woman at the same time. She had to choose. In the US, we're seeing just really high healthcare rates, infertility treatments, the cost of housing everywhere, like inflation is so high that couples are choosing to either have 1 child or no children because they can't afford them or they're not incentivized. They say, oh, well, if I have this child, then I have to pay for daycare. I would rather just go on vacations. And then, the high cost of living is causing more couples to wait longer because we have to set up our careers and, create that, we used to say, get the ducks in the row, but then have kids, right? Well, it just takes much longer to buy a good house, save up enough money to have a good house at a good school district. And so by the time they're, ready to build a family, they're in their late 30s. Then it's okay, well, now I can only have 1 child or now I'm infertile and I can't afford the treatment. So I'm going to have no children. So it's more than just like, it's creating policy change. It's supporting women, supporting couples to have families. It's been probably a couple decade long issue that's finally becoming a huge economic crisis. I don't remember who said it, but it was a very popular economist who said the number 1 threat that the US has to the economy is fertility. It's the declining fertility rates. Because if you think about it, if you don't reproduce and you don't fill out that working class, you don't have soldiers, you don't have workers, right? You can kind of see that going on in China right now, where so much aging population because they had that one child rule to get the population down. Now you have very few people supporting huge population that can't work anymore, and you see the economy just struggling because of it. So, I mean, if we want to stay in, economic, good side, then we need to focus on fertility and solutions and democratizing fertility care.
Wow, that is such a beautiful overview, and then thank you for sharing that. It's painful to hear it, actually, the statistics, but what's so beautiful is that we really have to have these conversations, and then a lot of times we don't see cause and effect and implications, not maybe immediate today or in the next 5-10 years, but definitely that's going to start showing up soon after. And a lot of times we see this as like, oh, it's going to happen after my lifetime, and I feel like that is so irresponsible. It's about what we can do with knowledge that we have to do better. And since you're an amazing champion in doing exactly that, from whatever you face, not only to learn from it, but also to adjust your game and then to do better, not to better just yourself and overcome challenges, but now educate others. So please tell us about Proov, about your company, and how you designed and scaled this so that you can be part of the solution.
So Proov is a diagnostic platform. We have an FDA clearance on our test. We're cleared for home use, so that means that couples can do them at home in their home environment and then share the results with their physicians. We did that so that everything could be accessible. Our most expensive product, which scans for 87% of the causes of infertility at home, is under $100. And so we really want to make things accessible, affordable. We're available on Amazon, on our website. We are launching into major retail location later this year. And it's about, anybody who, wants to learn about their fertility and build that family unit has the access to the tools. And so it's a platform. We have diagnostic tests, like they kind of look like pregnancy tests, honestly. They're just, or like a COVID test. We all know what a COVID test is. So it's like a little, it's got one line or two, and you kind of read the lines. Well, we have those tests. We pair them with our phone app. And basically the phone app walks you through the entire protocol. It tells you, when to test, and then use the phone camera. You take an image of the test. It reads it for you. It tells you if it's positive or negative. It tells you the next steps. Then it builds that entire hormone profile across your cycle. And at the end, you get a report that tells you exactly, what's going on with your cycle. You have diminishing ovarian reserve. That means you don't have many eggs left. We should go talk to a doctor in case, you want to preserve your eggs or you want to start conceiving naturally now. We'll talk about, timing intercourse, make sure sperm and egg are meeting. And we talk about the implantation window and make sure the hormones are elevated during that window, and we score the cycle. And then we provide resources to help have a healthy cycle. So we have some supplements that can help, maintain healthy estrogen and progesterone levels across your cycle. And then we have doctor support. So if you did identify an issue and you want to talk to a physician, we work with virtual clinics that can take that information and use that to diagnose and treat you for whatever condition. A lot of these things can be done virtually. And so instead of having to schedule time to go to a physician, pay the, $300-400 for the visit, you can do this at your home via video chat, get the medication shipped to your house. And so just making fertility accessible and affordable, and get some of those questions answered for couples.
That's amazing. And what's so beautiful, obviously now it's helping hundreds and thousands of people, and you wanted to take that to this larger scale. I'm sure its number is as huge as it is, but just having that vision, because so many people around the globe are also struggling. So with that in mind, you did this on your own. You started this conception of solution, and then you created your company. And then you started to figure it out how to get it on the market so that not only others can know about it, but can really offer this strong partnership, as you just mentioned, with different types of clinics and healthcare providers around the country and internationally. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that journey? Because obviously when we have a high pain, right, and when we create tremendous value and find a solution, things doesn't happen overnight. So how that journey worked out for you, please?
So that's a good story too. So I had this issue and I figured it out. So I had to do IVF for my son, who's now 12. And after it, I went to conceive my daughter, who is now 9. And I said, okay, I don't want to do IVF again. Let's try to figure this out. And so I went back to my physician and I had many conversations with him about, okay, what is it that we're missing? Like, what's going on? And so then we started talking about, the health of the luteal phase and what happens during implantation. And I said, I just think I need more progesterone. I just think that it dropped too soon. Like part of IVF is giving progesterone throughout your, the entire time. So we know it works, we know it's effective. Why don't I just skip the IVF part and then just get that same treatment? And he said, sure, why not? It's not going to hurt anything. And so I did that and I was able to conceive like within a couple months. And I was like, wow, this is literally the secret, is just that there was no diagnostic test to tell me that's what I needed. And in IVF, they basically fix everything. And so I kind of came out of the closet and started talking to all my friends about, what I was dealing with and what, because when you're a female and you want to be a mom and you can't, it's like the worst feeling. You feel ashamed. You don't want to talk to people. So I'd never told anybody I was struggling. But then once I was successful, I kind of came out to people and told them, and they would just send me emails or private messages with, I'm dealing with the same thing. What did you do? What did you do? Mm-hmm. And so I helped, a few people, a few of my close friends get pregnant. And I had a friend call me who was also, went through IVF to conceive her son. Amy, do you know how to make a home progesterone test? I said, yeah, I think I could probably figure it out. She's like, we should just do it. Like, there's so many people out there that can benefit for such an easy technology. Like, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just try it? So we got together and we, purchased the reagents off the internet, and I went into my basement and I kind of did the prototypes and I figured out it was possible. I read all the literature. I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we were just 2 scientists that dealt with infertility. Didn't have any money. We weren't connected to the VC scene. We were just 2 women trying to make a difference. And so we went off Upwork and bought a $50 logo and logged into Indiegogo.com and said, how do I create a campaign? And we did crowdfunding. And we just, I created all the marketing materials with PowerPoint. It was really, really bad when you look back at them. I was like, wow, what was I doing? But you just have to do it. And, I said, this is my idea. This is my product. This is how I think I can help. And we just posted it, and we posted it a couple of Facebook groups and said, hey, if you fund this project, we'll make it and then we'll send it to you as a thank you. And we got funded within 48 hours and just got the money, created the prototypes, and just sold it and kind of did it from there. The first year we had about $100,000 in revenue, and we decided, all right, if we really want to make this a real company and help more people, we have to go out and get venture funding. And so I took all the money I had left in the bank, went to San Francisco, got a really cheap hotel in a not so safe part of town, paid $4,000 to pitch at some conference, and did my 5 minutes. And I met a fantastic woman there who was funded by major retail and major consumer health companies. And she said, this is amazing. Let's do this. So I went through an accelerator program with her. I took on a co-founder who's a marketer. And so she actually created real marketing assets and a box and all that fun stuff. And we just started growing and selling. And, the success of the company, the success of the product is a direct correlation with the people that we're helping. And so basically women, we help them, they tell their friends about, okay, Proov, help me get pregnant, they help me identify an issue, whatever it is. And then so we've just been growing that way. And so we just are there to support and do the right thing. And it's allowed us to grow and take on venture funding and help more people.
That is amazing. And thank you again, Sharon, for that piece, because a lot of times people don't understand it's not just a one-time thing. It's also commitment, it's a passion, it's desire, it's a knowledge, but it's also continuation to tweak, to grow, and look at that. And now you have something that you can now roll out on global scene, and which is phenomenal, and solve millions and millions of people's lives and their solutions, and make it so cost effective. First of all, kudos you, because besides being that amazing scientist, you became such an amazing entrepreneur, and you did a lot of great things by trial and error and showing up, and look at where all this tech took you. So with that, in closing, do you mind sharing for anybody that have similar situation where they want to solve the problem, wanted to come up with something that they can make a tremendous impact on the larger scale? What would you recommend? What advice would you give them?
The biggest advice is think outside the box, think of strategic ways or innovative ways to do it. I mean, we did crowdfunding and we raised 50,000. No, it wasn't even that much. It was like little over $40,000. And that was enough to launch a medical device. And it was because we knew what to do. We knew the FDA, we went on their website, we read the directions, we understood what we had to do. And we just did it. You do it very stepwise. So, to start something, you don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to have, fancy this and that or the other thing. You just need to know the rules and know how to play by the rules to get what it is that you want. Our crowdfunding campaign had 287 women that enrolled in it.
Wow.
And so at the end of that campaign, we had 287 women that were bought into our technology, what we were doing. And so instead of paying a large, clinical trial organization to do a clinical trial, I turned around and said, hey, do you want to enroll in this? And they all said, not all of them, but a lot of them said yes. And based on the ones that enrolled, we had enough data to make sure that we were FDA compliant. We were producing good, solid devices that would work. And so instead of having to pay to get that data, we found a new way for people to pay us to collect that data. Right, because we were giving them a product that they needed, but we needed the information back from them to make the product. And so it was a good relationship with the right consumer to get that done. And so if you think about traditional, it's like, okay, well, first you have to have an idea, and then you have to do a seed funding rate, and then you have to do this and this. Like, that is not truth. That's not how everybody does it, right? If you can think of a different way, if you can be strategic and think about the problem in another way, you can make it happen. That, and you have to have so much passion for what you're doing. You have to enjoy what you're doing, because there's so many ups and downs. The ups are really up and the downs are really down. So you really have to be all in and enjoy what you're doing, because it is very hard.
I love it. And again, I'm so glad you are introducing that. Yes, just because traditionally certain things have been done a certain way, falling for those blueprints and cookie cutter approaches and outdated information will just slow down, and maybe actually it will put you in position to give up. but I just love how you were able to figure it out and innovate constantly with your approaches and your strategies, and also have amazing people corral behind you. So that speaks so much about your leadership and who you are. So Amy, you obviously are leading and living with your legacy already. You're already making such a huge footprint, and obviously have plenty to leave behind for future generation just from these efforts that you most recently did. So what's in the bucket list, and what would you like to be remembered and known for?
This is a really good question, and I don't know if I've ever had anybody ask me that. So, what's in the future, what's kind of left for us is, hormones are what make women unique and powerful and amazing. And there's a lot of issues with the menstrual cycle that cause us to not be our best, whether that's, PMS, heavy periods, painful periods, going through menopause. And so we want to move out of just helping people through fertility issues, but also anybody with the cycle. If we can help have her get a balanced cycle, it unlocks all this creativity, it unlocks all this joy and, just more work ethic, more drive, at any stage of a woman's life. And so, what I really want, I guess my legacy, or people to remember me for, is that I was the one that helped them understand their cycle and how it affects their lives, so that they can either advocate to get it changed, supplement themselves, create a healthy cycle. And it just starts with that education, because we're not given that education in school. I was a PhD level scientist that went through years and years of schooling. I came off birth control pill. I knew nothing about my cycle, nothing. I had to self-teach. And this is what all these women are doing, is they're self-teaching about their menstrual cycle. And it's just a really difficult thing to do. And so I want to be that knowledge base and that testing platform, that solutions platform to help women reach their goals.
I love it. I can't wait to see what is coming, because as you mentioned, a lot of us are in different stages of life. Understanding our hormones is crucial, specifically as we're hitting different stages, as you mentioned, menopause or whatever might be, just a simple hormonal change. And it's so beautiful to have, again, women advocating for women's health and holding the torch and showing what's possible and blazing the trail with opportunities, so we can be more educated and make a better decision. Amy, it was absolute pleasure to have you on Legacy Leader Show and share this. We'll definitely have you down the road come back. But in the meantime, for everyone that wants to connect, learn more, and really find the ways to really investigate their own hormones and everything else, is the best way for them to go to your company website, which is Proov, Proov. So Proov.com.
Prooftest.com.
Prooftest.com. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the best way. We're also on Amazon. We do, Prime delivery, all that fun stuff. We have a great Facebook community. And so if you're struggling with fertility or hormone issues and need some support, fertility support group, Proov user and support group. So you can just kind of put that into the search bar on Facebook. But yeah, we're here to support any way we can. And if you go to the website, definitely sign up for the emails. So much educational content. It's all free. We really want people to be educated and empowered. And so that's one of our pillars of our company, is just education. So if you go to like the blog section of the website, it's all these really cool things about fertility and hormones that you never learned in school.
Thank you for listening to Legacy Leader Show. If you enjoyed the content and had a positive experience, then please leave us a positive rating. In addition, leave us a positive review whenever you are listening on whatever platform there might be. Make sure your friends and family also know about the benefit and value that we provide and what we have to offer. Cheers.